So France is the latest country to recognize a Palestinian state. Um, this week, of course, a number of countries have recognized a Palestinian state. Now, I want to discuss with you what recognition actually means in international law. And I want to bring in two perspectives. One is the theory, or rather theories, of recognition, and there are two of them. One is called the constitutive theory, and the other one is the declaratory theory. I'm reading from Malcolm Shaw's classic book, International Law. So let's start with constitutive theory, which maintains that it is the act of recognition by other states that creates a new state and endows it with legal personality, and not the process by which it actually attained independence. Now, these theories, of course, they have been debated over many years, and obviously they are controversial because what the constitutive theory is saying basically is that a state will not exist, particularly if it's a new state being carved out of another state. It will not exist, it will not have legal recognition unless the act of other states recognizing it is actually performed. So that's why this is fairly controversial. Of course, the emphasis here is on recognition as a political act. Let's see what the declaratory theory says. So this is opposite of the constitutive theory. So Malcolm Shaw says that declaratory theory adopts the opposite approach and is a little more in accord with practical realities. It maintains that recognition is merely an acceptance by states of an already existing situation. A new state will acquire capacity in international law not by virtue of the consent of others, but by virtue of a practical, factual situation. So you see, those are opposite sides of the same argument. So the mere fact that once a state has, let's say South Sudan, breaks away from the larger Sudan through a referendum and so on, and that becomes a fact that cannot be controverted merely on the basis of lack of recognition. So basically that is what it means. All these concepts and theories in international law are heavily contested. Now let's go to de facto and de jure recognition. Maybe almost echoing the same thing, but let's see what this means. A de facto recognition is a practical acknowledgement of a government's factual control over a territory, while de jure recognition is the formal, legal, and permanent recognition that all international law requirements for statehood have been met. Okay, so that is what that says. Of course, there's usually a difference between recognition of government and recognition of the state. So, but we cannot go into that right now. I see the definition of de facto and de jure has somewhat brought those two together, but there's a difference, and we'll talk about that in my next video. Now, one thing that I've read there, the issue of statehood. In international law, statehood is met under certain conditions. The Montevideo Convention is the one that really concretizes this. So what does it mean for a state to be a state, to have that legal capacity of statehood? So the Montevideo Convention defines some 4 criteria. One is that it must be in charge of a defined territory. 2 is that there must be a government in effective control of the territory. 3 is that there must be a permanent population. And finally, it must be capable of entering international agreements with other states. Again, all these are very contested concepts, theories, lots and lots of discussions. Of course, whenever there are issues of interpretation, the International Court of Justice is the one with the mandate to give some of these interpretations. So as far as Palestine is concerned, this is just the beginning of a process. And you know that it is a war situation, which makes it even more complicated. But people of the world are united in demanding that Palestine be recognized and the genocide that is going on in Palestine come to an end. And this is why it is important right now to discuss these issues.